I talk about this all the time, but there are definitely times where AEW does remind me of the promotion that they, 2 decades on replaced on the old Turner Networks WCW. There's times where they really feel like the spiritual successor of WCW, and this Saturday's Collision was one of those times, was one of those moments, was one of those shows that reminded me almost, okay, this might be what WCW would look like had it survived and existed today. First of all, the setting, which the former ECW arena, this Collision with that setting and the way the show was laid out and some of the angles that they did and how hot the crowd was, it reminded me of a WCW Saturday night. That's what this Collision reminded me of. It reminded me of watching a during the Nitro era, what would have been considered a B show, one of the studio shows, um, Saturday night or worldwide, but a hot episode of one of those shows. Or prior to the Nitro era, when the 605 show or the Saturday night show was the A show of the promotion. You had a lot of big stars on this Collision. Maybe they weren't necessarily doing things that involved the primary money drawing programs that they're involved in, but they were on the shows. And as I go through the review, I'll give examples of how, this just reminded me of the best of what WCW was in its time and how different and how it felt different than what WWF was offering at the time, and how this particular episode of Collision was just extremely my shit. I mean, especially for a modern, B show, right? This to me was peak. This was a peak episode of the B show of this promotion. You know, I don't know if this Collision would have worked if it was a Dynamite, right? But it absolutely worked as a Collision.